Michael Sazin, the Parrot Wizard, and this is Kili, my Senegal parrot. And this video is about reintroducing Kili and Truman. So for over a year now, Kili, Truman, Rachel and Santina had been in quarantine in separate rooms. We were dealing with their health issues, and after Santina's been rehomed, we've been slowly working toward reintroducing Kili, Truman, and Rachel back to each other. We started by putting Kili and Rachel back in the bird room, and the introduction of them to each other went quite well. They tolerate each other and don't really bother each other, which is really what we're trying to accomplish. Now, when it comes to Kili and Truman, they have a bit of a history of getting into fights and having some trouble with each other. Ever since I got Truman, Kili's had a jealous rivalry with Truman. She's always trying to get him and get him out of the way. I don't think there's any way that Kili and Truman can ever truly be friends, but through training I've taught them to tolerate each other. However, since they've been apart for so long, this reintroduction has had Kili a bit agitated. Even just showing Kili a picture of Truman, she goes completely bonkers and wants to attack him. This is just nuts. Look at this. If I just so much as show her Truman on a picture, she just wants to throw herself and start attacking him. It is clear that Kili's not just playing shred the paper, because if we show her blank paper, she is completely indifferent. But if there's a picture, any sign of Truman, she just goes ballistic and wants to tear it apart. I'm a little bit afraid of what she would do to Truman if we left them out in the same room together. So this is why we're going to use some training to make sure that Kili and Truman can get along. I'm going to use a process that I recommend for people for introducing birds to each other. This method relies on the birds being previously trained and having individual training. At the very minimum, if both birds are target trained, you can follow this method. We started with a short pre-session with Mariana and I, training each of two birds together in the same room simultaneously. If you have two people and two birds, this is the best way to begin the introduction, because it's possible for one person to interact with one bird and keep each bird busy and away from each other and away from trying to get to each other. So I stood in one corner with Kili on a training perch doing some targeting and tricks with her, while Mariana went into the other corner of the bird room and did some target training and tricks with Truman. By keeping each bird busy, earning treats through training, it kept their attention diverted off of each other. By getting them used to being in the same room and not flying to attack each other, we're already making progress. Also, this was a good test to see that when I begin the real training one-on-one, that the birds have the potential to focus on training rather than on attacks. Now that we've established that Kili and Truman can at least be in the same room if they're busy, now I can begin the actual introduction training. I set up the birds on two separate training perches, and I begin targeting them around, having them flight recall and do tricks. I alternate my attention between the two birds. I use large treats to keep each bird busy eating while I'm running over to do the other bird. I don't want one bird to be sitting there idle while I'm training the other, because that can cause jealousy and for that bird to try to jump in and crash the scene. So instead, I have one of the birds do a trick, flight recall, a target, anything that will earn them a treat through positive reinforcement, and then I give them a pellet, nut, or large seed that's going to take them at least 5 or 10 seconds to consume. Immediately, I run over to the other bird and have them do a trick and give them a big treat, and then back to the first bird, and I alternate my attention back and forth between the two birds. This way they learn that they can both get attention from me. They learn that the other bird is not a threat and not an issue. Each bird, because they're earning a lot of treats on their training perch, stays on their training perch waiting for the next opportunity to do a trick or a target to get another treat. And little by little, I can bring the training perches closer and closer together. So day by day and session by session, the birds learn to be closer to each other's proximity. They learn that the other bird doesn't bother them, doesn't try to come at them, that it doesn't try to do anything. And this builds up more of a habit of the two birds being in the same room and ignoring each other, not doing anything to each other. So this is the best way to establish a safe beginning relationship between the two parrots. If the birds have the potential to become friendly, you can continue getting closer and closer, and hopefully they'll learn to actually like each other and become friends. Now, for birds like Kili and Truman that are just a bit incompatible and Senegals are particularly like that, where they just really are more of a one-person bird or one-bird, where they don't really want any other birds or people interfering with their lifestyle. That's not really possible. So at the very least, if I can develop tolerance where Kili doesn't attack Truman, and where they can be out in the same room together when I'm there, and without them trying to get in a fight, that's already major improvement for me. So up until now, for the last few weeks, all the birds have been together in the same bird room, but they've been in the cages, and we would take them out separately. Now that we've completed the training, it is finally time to start having the birds out and about together and going back to the normal lifestyle. Where are you going? So that is my training approach to introduce parrots to each other in a safe and controlled way using training. I hope you find this helpful. Even though Kili and Truman knew each other before, because she's really mad and wants to get him right now, this is a similar reintroduction that is more like introducing new parrots. I use training to carefully introduce them to each other without allowing for any fights to erupt. And now they are getting better and more used to each other's presence, and Kili's starting to calm down to the fact that she's going to have Big Brother Truman around again. So you can check out the complete article at trainparrot.com. You can buy a training perch kit at parrotwizard.com. And you can follow Kili, Truman, and Rachel on Facebook.